Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm sorry I could not understand the first talk because I do not speak Italian, but it sounded very interesting even with not understanding it, so thanks for that. I'm here today to talk a little bit about story worlds and audience thinking, and I brought my case study of my latest huge production, Net Wars Out of Control. So maybe I give you a little bit of an insight what we're doing in the company, because it's a little bit, so it's better? Okay. Because I think it differs maybe a little bit of what most of you are doing. Miiqo Studios, it's a studio for digital media, and what we do is that we create digital formats and experience, and what our main focus is that we combine story, design, and technologies. And with technologies, it's not only to execute what we're doing, but it's part of the whole creative process. And another thing I think that we focus on is that we are trying to think from the content story to the audience. Means we look what we want to tell, and then and who we want to tell it to, and then we design for the platforms and for the format. So it can be a film, it can be, as you can see, a narrative interactive formats. We're working with virtual reality, what Michelle is going to talk about later on. I'm looking forward to it. We also do installations and exhibitions. And what we most of the time trying to do is connect these formats into so-called transmedia experiences, but that doesn't have to be like this. And I brought like a little quote that I like very much from Amanda Palmer. She's a writer and a musician. Anything you tell in any format can change somebody, can change an opinion, can scratch an opening in a scared up heart of a human being. And it doesn't matter how you do it. Means we're not focusing only on film or one format. It's really about how we can reach audiences and how we can touch people with what we're doing. And the case study that I brought today, it's called Net Wars. And Net Wars is more or less a fact-based transmedia experience exploring the impending threat of cyber warfare. And let me tell you a little bit how the project started, that you get an idea what we did there. We were approached by a classical documentary production company in 2000, I think to end of 2011. And they were working on the topic cyber warfare since some years. And they planned to do a classical TV documentary, but because they also wanted to move into the digital area, they also had a fiction graphic novel app for tablets. And they asked us if we maybe can enhance the project and go on the web, so do something like a web documentary or interactive format. And the first thing that we thought, okay, cyber warfare is a very interesting topic, at least for me. And we were thinking, okay, what do we want to do, and who are we going to talk about, and how do people see and react to that kind of topic? And the first reaction that we got when we talked to people is, this is sci-fi. It's not going to happen, it's not there. So we still had the problem, how can we create awareness for the topic? The interesting thing is that even after the Snowden disclosures, people said, okay, I've got nothing to hide apart from my porn, which is not a joke, that's really what people said. So, so we really had this issue, okay, how can we get that kind of topic out there? And we were thinking, okay, we are working with that technology. We are going on the web, so we are using the technology that we are talking about. So we really want to make people feel how vulnerable they are, not only understand intellectually, but really experience. So that was the one decision that we made by that point. The second thing is that I still got the feeling that it's very technical. And a lot of people said, okay, it's about tech, I don't know. And I still had the feeling, okay, what is it with tech and the danger behind it? I mean, if we look at 1984, for example, it's something that is very oppressed by the state. Today, it's completely different. It's some kind of charming, it looks beautiful, it surrounds us, but still we don't really know what's going to happen. What we are doing it, and we want to do it, and we buy, we spend a lot of money, and it's part of our daily life, and no one forces us to do it. So I still have the feeling, okay, cyber war is something like an intangible topic. You cannot really feel it, you cannot really see it, but I want people to feel affected by it. So we were choosing a very personal and emotional approach, and we created this character, and he should really impersonate what I said about technology, this kind of charming, good-looking surrounding, but still dangerous feeling. He is a fictional character, and he's a cyber weapon dealer. Those people really exist. And he sells cyber weapons like normal people sell, like people sell normal weapons. And he, I was very happy that we got this actor. He's the son of Klaus Kinski, Nikolai Kinski, and he were acting in it. So we were very happy to have him on board. So we had the approach, we had the character, and we did a 5-part web series. But on top of it, we approached the production company and said, listen, we've got the whole world. When writing that character, we did the logo, we did the corporate design, we get a whole world here. Let's connect the TV documentary with a fiction graphic novel, with this character, and maybe think about doing an IP, an intellectual property, and not only something on the web, something on the iPad, and something on TV. And I would like to show you like a little trailer what we ended up with. I don't know, is it possible to turn down the lights a little bit? If not, that's also fine, but yeah. Thank you. Thanks. So is it?
Every day, we get alarming news about data spying, cybercrime, digital attacks on infrastructure, and manipulation of minds on the internet. The transmedia project NetWars provides a tangible experience of the potential dangers of cyberwar using 5 different platforms: a 52-minute TV documentary, a full, responsive 5-part interactive web documentary, a fictional interactive graphic novel for tablets, an ebook and audiobook series, and a paperback novel. With a provoking and interactive mix of facts and fictional drama, consumers of the cyberspace become engaged in an immersive story world over all platforms. In the center, the salesman, a notional cyber weapons dealer.
This is not about petty crime. This is about war. Miiqo, the ultimate game.
In the 5-part interactive web documentary, the salesman shows the audience just how vulnerable they really are.
How does it feel? How does it feel? How does it feel? When everything around you suddenly goes dark.
NetWars, Out of Control, puts the user in the center of our fragile modern society. It delivers the facts behind a series of highly personalized, emotional cyber war scenarios. The webdoc uses new ways of immersive storytelling by integrating highly emotional fictional narrative with scientific information and data visualizations. International expert knowledge gives an insight into the world of cyber warfare and its international political dimensions. Gaming elements trigger the user's credulity and reveal how easily they could be affected.
Do you really think that you have nothing to hide? Well, I'm sorry to say it, but you do, my friend. You just don't know it yet.
So, as you've seen, we more or less moved from the TV documentary to a whole transmedia IP that we developed. So NetWars, of course, as I said, we created like a logo and a corporate identity, a whole world on the design part. And at the end, we had 6 different platforms, as you've seen in the trailer. So we got a whole website where journalistic information went on. We got the web documentary with the salesman in the center. We got the TV documentary, which more or less covered the international background of cyber warfare, and parts of it was integrated in the web documentary. We get the graphic novel that now has a 2nd part in it. And I think the also interesting thing is that, and I will talk a little bit later on, that we have an ebook, an audiobook, and a paperback novel. It's a 6-part paperback novel already out there. So we have parts that are fact-based, and we have parts that are fiction-based, and somehow it's intertwined with the whole topic of cyber warfare. It's all connected by the character that we developed. So how did we work with the story world and the formats and the audience? Every format, and I think this is also something quite interesting when you develop a concept like this, all formats together are connected by a story. But every format speaks to a different audience. So we have the TV documentary, which was aired on Arte. So more or less, of course, we had the TV audience that we reached in the first place. We got the web documentary. The web documentary was on our side, but it also were on different partner sides. We have the graphic novel app, who was pure fiction and talked to a younger audience and was also marketed on different channels to a younger, more tech-oriented sci-fi audience. And we have the novel, and the publisher that we got marketed via the thriller aspect. So they already had their audience who were interested in thrillers, so they got the whole story and brought it to their audience. But whenever you enter one of the formats, of course, you can go into the whole world and approach the other format. So the goal is always that the audience can move from format to format and discover more by the connection via the world and the story. When it comes to partners, and I think this is also very interesting when it comes to the distribution model, because of the different approach and angle of each format, we got different partners in. So as I already mentioned, of course, we got ZDF and Arte for the TV documentary, but we also got a tech magazine, which is CT, and Die Zeit, which is a huge newspaper, weekly newspaper in Germany, and they covered the background that was covered in the story of the TV documentary. For the online part, we got Arte, who licensed and co-produced the language versions of the web format, but we also got Heise Online, which is a very famous and very highly frequented tech-oriented online magazine. So they brought us a huge audience. And the interesting thing when we looked at the numbers afterwards is that a huge part of the audience moved from Heise to watch the TV documentary, which was in the Mediathek for 7 days. So you could see how the audience was moving that never maybe would have known about the different formats. And coming back to the IP, the nice thing was that Bastei Entertainment, which is a huge publishing house in Germany, they licensed the IP when they saw the character and the different formats. They said, okay, this is interesting because of the transmedia approach, but also because of the topic. And they asked an author to write the novel for them. So this is a licensing model that they enhanced then with a paperback novel, which already has, I think, 5 parts at the moment in the market, and they think about continuing it. And what you see down on the right, there is a TV series still in planning, so it's not finalized yet, but you can see that how that kind of story world can be expanded. When it comes to release, just that you also get an idea how we got that out there. So we started in 2013, very early, before we got into the press, and we just launched the website, and we started all our social media channels, so we started to cover it in the news. Also, of course, because of the Snowden disclosures, and we had the feeling, okay, now we have to get out with a project, but it was planned anyway. But we were not really going public with a huge communication strategy, so we just started very slowly and to set up everything, and we tested with the audience, like bits by bits, and see how it worked. Then we got the web format parallel with the screening of the TV documentary in TV out there on all channels at the same time, which was quite an interesting experiment because I was completely against it. I said, please put it before, but they said, okay, let's do it simultaneously. And they already intertwine the facts with the fiction. So the documentary is facts, the web series is facts intertwined with fiction, but integrated in the fact-based website still. Then the audiobook, the ebook, and the graphic novel was released, and afterwards the book. And story-wise, and the TV series May will come, we will see. Story-wise, it's maybe also interesting we got the fact-based part, as I said, intertwined with the fiction and with the character who appears on the web. He also appears in the audiobook and ebook and the book series, and that is a prequel for the story that takes part in the fiction graphic novel app. So this is how it's intertwined story-wise. Okay, so that was...
So now, do you want to play?
But I think I have a little bit, if I have time. How much time do I have? Yes, I do. I was so quick. Because I think as I'm here with the TorinoFilmLab, I also wanted to go back more to the film industry. I'm very happy that I work with Savina and the TorinoFilmLab since 5 years, something like that, and also like pushing the audience design program together with Valeria Richter. And so the question is, you've seen now really like a transmedia experience where every format is independent, and so there's not, like in our case, not one main format. But working with the audience design program, for example, for TorinoFilmLab, of course, it's like the film that's in the center. So the question is, so why should filmmakers care about reaching the audience? Why is it important to think, maybe also in the early development process, about your audience and not just hide and think, okay, I've got a film, somehow it will go out there. Of course, there are a lot of people saying, no, of course, people aren't going to the cinema anymore and a lot of bad things are happening. Yes, but I think there are also a lot of good things happening and a lot of opportunities that you have. Just very roughly, I think there's one thing, of course, a change in the distribution landscape that maybe a lot of you know more than I do, but I see a lot of new distribution platforms coming up. Of course, the video on demand, the day-and-date release possibilities, and a change in technologies. So you have multiplication in channels and in strategies when it comes to distribution. Another thing I think that is very important, and for me even more important, of course, is the change in audience behavior. And I think working with highly interactive formats like I do, I can see it and I can feel it quite intense. So one thing, of course, is the changing platforms where I watch my content. I can watch it on my computer, I can watch it on my iPad, I can watch it on my mobile, I can watch it on my TV, I can watch it on my connected TV while I watch it on a mediathek via the internet. And then it's the changing forms of reception, that maybe I want to watch something while I'm in a plane, maybe I want to watch something alone at home, maybe I want to watch it with my friends. And it's the freedom of decision. And what I feel, it's for example, when I decide I want to watch a film, it's not only about I want to watch a film, it's only about how do I want to watch the film. Do I want to go in the cinema and have the experience of being in a huge cinema, or do I maybe just sit alone at home and I want to have it just on my computer or on my connected TV? So think about this kind of when do you want to watch what content. And then you have the global awareness. I don't know what you said about it, but I think this is, especially when it comes to series, of course, I don't want to wait when it's like an international series, I don't know, 3 months until I can see it, because I go on social media and I see all the spoilers and I want to talk in an international community. So that is also a thing. And I think you have the personal goals for you as a filmmaker. You want your film to be seen, I hope so. So that's why you're doing films. Maybe you want to build a career, so you want to make another movie and you want to have an audience. Some of you maybe also want to make a living. And especially when it comes to documentary, it's sometimes really about communicating a message. So I think it's really about finding the potential for your film, because I think sometimes there is a bigger audience for your film out there that maybe cannot be reached only by festivals and cinemas. And what we're doing in the audience design, so what is it? People always ask me, what is audience design? The way that we define it is that it's a process of creating audience awareness and engagement around film from an early stage of development through a story-based and multi-angle approach. But for us, it's quite important that it's a kind of mindset, how you think about your audience already in the early stage. So the big difference from me is that you think from the story world, like you've seen with Networks, you think in a kind of a world and a story, not only from the product, that it's a film that needs to get out there and is just pushed in the market. So the classical approach, and this is, of course, I know the extreme. There are a lot of different ways to do it. But the very extreme way is you have a story, you make a film, and then you have the cinema festival, VOD, DVD, TV, and the audience is reached via a classical marketing distribution. So it's a kind of having the product and pushes it out there via some channels. And the way, that's what I'm saying, is a mindset, how we try to think in the audience design approaches, that we have a story, but also a topic and the theme, so all the positive aspects that you have. Thanks. And we think about what can that be? What can be the different parts that can reach a different audience apart from the classical channels? For example, it can be the music. Maybe it's a very famous musician that already has an audience out there in the community. Maybe it's the themes or the topics that you have in the story. Maybe it's the narrative, some characters that you can expand. It's the artistic style and genre, it's the characters, the set. For the local markets, it's also something that we think, if you go into distribution, what can work globally, but what can work on the local market? So what can you draw from your story and from your film and from your format, where you can say also for distributors, okay, that is something that you can package for your local distribution in that market. And then, of course, the production company and the director, because you don't want to lose your audience, and maybe there are already some assets that you have that you can use. So we are trying to reach audiences via different channels that maybe you will not find via the classical approach. And we are trying to bring them back to your film via the different aspects. The second thing is that we are trying to integrate it in the whole process. So what you normally have, you see like from development, production, post-production, festival release, public release, and long-term, that you more or less start the communication before the festival release. Again, it's an extreme, but this is this kind of wave that you have. And then you have a high peak of audience via the public release and a very small long-term. What we are trying to do is that you start in development and financing already to think what you want to do. And as I also said with Networks, what we did, be out there quite early with some little things and try to communicate with your audience and build up step by step. The best case, you have an active audience by time of release that then also can carry out your story. So that is a little bit that you understand the kind of thinking that you may have seen how we did it with the Networks approach, which is a transmedia experience, but also what we're doing with the audience design thinking in the TorinoFilmLab when it comes to film as the main product in the world. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Lena. We have a little coffee break now, 15 minutes. Please be back on time. Eh? Not an Italian coffee break, let's say an international, global coffee break, eh? Like Nicola would say. See you back in 15 minutes.